Now we're going to discuss the last organs or the last involuntary organs which are under the control of autonomic nervous system. Okay, so we have this gland, this endocrine gland, which is the adrenal medulla. Okay, which is a part of the adrenal gland. The medulla is a part of the adrenal gland, and this is the gland found above the kidneys. Okay, so as we know that sympathetic nervous system under the control of it or during its activity, adrenal medulla releases adrenaline and small amount or a small amount of noradrenaline and dopamine, okay? But mainly adrenaline and noradrenaline, okay? And parasympathetic nervous system has no effect on adrenal medulla. And again, there is a very important exception here. Remember sweat glands? Sweat glands, this is a secretion, okay? And parasympathetic nervous system is a system of secretions, okay? So adrenal medulla also they secrete hormones. So our body uses sympathetic neurons or sympathetic nerves supplying adrenal medulla because during stress we need adrenaline and noradrenaline, but these sympathetic neurons releases acetylcholine. So despite parasympathetic nervous system doesn't reach adrenal medulla because there is no parasympathetic innervation to it, sympathetic neurons supplying adrenal medulla release acetylcholine, and this is the same case as that of sweat glands. Okay, sweat glands were only supplied with sympathetic nervous system. Okay, but it was these sympathetic neurons release acetylcholine. Okay, now let's discuss liver. On the liver, sympathetic does very important thing. It increases something called glycogenolysis, and this is the breakdown of glycogen, and the breaking down of glycogen gives us glucose. Okay, and it also increases gluconeogenesis, and gluconeogenesis means the synthesis of glucose from non-carbohydrate sources such as protein and lipids. Okay, so the end result is increase in blood glucose levels, or what we call hyperglycemia. So sympathetic nervous system increases blood glucose or cause hyperglycemia. Okay, but parasympathetic nervous system has no effect on the liver. Okay, let's see what is the effect of sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system on the pancreas. Sympathetic nervous system decreases insulin release, and when insulin is less, insulin is responsible for decreasing blood glucose. It helps in the uptake of glucose from the blood to the cell. So when insulin release is less, we would expect that blood glucose would be, yes, increased, causing also hyperglycemia. So sympathetic nervous system causes hyperglycemia because number one, it increases glycogenolysis and gluconeogenesis in the liver, okay, and number two, it decreases insulin release, okay, but parasympathetic has no effect on insulin release, okay, or on pancreas. The last organ is the kidney. And for sympathetic nervous system, it increases the release of enzyme called renin. Okay, renin causes something very important. Renin is released from the kidneys when your blood pressure is low. Okay, sympathetic nervous system around the kidney senses that there is a decrease in blood pressure, so it increases the release of renin from kidney, and renin increases blood pressure through the following. It converts a protein called angiotensinogen and converts it to a protein called angiotensin 1. Angiotensin 1 is an inactive protein which is converted into angiotensin 2 through an enzyme called angiotensin converting enzyme, or ACE. Angiotensin 2 is active and causes vasoconstriction, and vasoconstriction increases blood pressure. So, sympathetic nervous system increases blood pressure. It increases blood pressure through the release of renin, so we end up with angiotensin 2 causing vasoconstriction. Also, sympathetic nervous system increases heart rate, and this increases blood pressure. So, increased sympathetic activity is expected to cause hypertension and hyperglycemia. Okay, so we now ended up discussing the effect of sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system on different involuntary organs, and we have learned what are the organs that have single innervation, such as the heart, which in the ventricles of the heart has only sympathetic innervation, okay, and the blood vessels and with glands, adrenal medulla, and so on. Okay, in pharmacology um, we divide the systems into or according to the neurotransmitter, to cholinergic system, which deals with acetylcholine, and adrenergic system, which deals with noradrenaline or norepinephrine. We don't use in pharmacology sympathetic and parasympathetic. When discussing drugs, we divide into cholinergic and adrenergic according to the neurotransmitter, because as you saw or you learned that, for example, sweat glands are are innervated with sympathetic neurons that releases acetylcholine. So not every sympathetic neuron releases noradrenaline. So in pharmacology, when we are discussing drugs, we are discussing adrenergic and cholinergic. Okay, and in the next lecture, we would start with the cholinergic system.